Yo, what is going on, Rangers fans? I am Randy, and we are back for week number 3 of the Pokemon Global Battle League. I'm, of course, your coach of the Texas Pokemon Rangers, and this week we're going up against the Munchlaxster United, coached by King Bub. So make sure you guys go give him a look. He's a pretty great battler. He's doing pretty decent. Actually, I don't even know his record. I gotta double check his record right here because I'm just genuinely curious. Right now he's 1-1 in the league. We're also 1-1. I haven't watched his week other battles, so that's my own fault. But definitely gonna be a tough matchup here. We're both in the Western Conference. We took a pretty huge beating last week. Also, it was my own fault. I forgot about Adamant Kartana being slower than Timid Delphox. In the battle, I didn't know why he switched when I did it, so I kept that mindset in the post-com. But I didn't even think about when he told me after the battle he was Adamant. And I should have known because Adamant was the only way he would have been able to kill Mega Garchomp at where I was and where he was. So that's my own fault. But anyways, we're here to bounce back, hopefully. Bub's team is pretty decent. There's some holes I definitely see in his team. You can see his matchup right here on this really cool website that was designed by Automatic, isn't it? Automatic, whatever his name is. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's a really cool dude. His website's so cool in prepping, and he's done some other smaller leagues as well. So it's very easy to see the matchup and stuff like that. And it's very nice. It's just a very nice website. So of course my team is still the same. Celebi, Clefable, my Z Delphox, Mega Garchomp, Hariyama, Mienshao, Milotics, Piloswine, Scolipede, which is my Z Crystal user as well, Thundurus, Incarnate, and of course Zoroark. Meanwhile, Bub's team consists of the Claydol, Cofagrigus, Crobat, the Cryogonal, Mega Diancie, Licky, Lucario, and a Z Manaphy, Metagross, Roserade, and the Zygarde, Cryogonal being his other Z Crystal user. So, obviously his team's pretty slow. He's got a pretty massive speed gap between his Diancie and his Crobat. But unfortunately for me, I don't have anything in between that really helps me out at all. So that's something I can't take advantage of in this matchup. But he's definitely got a lot of slow stuff like above like base 80 and higher, like stuff like Metagross. Metagross is 70, I think. Roserade, Zygarde, obviously Manaphy, Lucario, I believe is around that tier. And then he's got some slow stuff like Claydol, Cofagrigus, and the Licky. But my biggest concern here in this matchup is, of course, the Manaphy, and not so much the Manaphy, but the Mega Diancie. Sorry, I messed up my dimensions, but mainly the Mega Diancie and then the Manaphy. Z Manaphy is always something to worry about. But with my unaware Clefable, it really wasn't a huge concern going into the prep. At least for me, just given how I built for this week. So I can go over my team once we get into the builder, because I actually don't remember exactly what I brought. But anyways, this is the matchup for this week. Obviously, whoever wins moves to 2-1 and is in decent position to start getting some streak going. Obviously, starting League 1 and 2 is not a good thing. We know that already at the GBA. So, but you know, that's just the way things go. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump into the battle. I actually have the battle set up right here, ready to go post-com. Let's see if I remember the actual team. Actually, I have the page right here, if I remember correctly. Let me go ahead and open up my DMs. I forgot. I actually have the paste right here. Let me pull up 1 second. I forgot the actual the sets and spreads. Although I will tell you right now, I am Choice Scarf Mienshao. And this game actually is pretty insane, by the way. Let me go ahead and get rid of the bottom screen. We don't need the bottom screen for this. Sorry for the really patchy recording, but that's just the way it is for now. But anyways, oh yeah. So this is the actual matchup. It is a post-com, of course. I'll be doing live once the GBA finishes, so it'll be very soon. We'll start doing live comms again. But leading the way, we have Scarf Mienshao with a Regenerator, no Reckless, because he has potential to have, obviously he's got a Ghost type, and he has potential to be carrying, Protect and stuff like that on Diancie and the Licky. Not so much Diancie, but the Licky because of Wish. Got Knockoff, U-Turn, Stone Edge, and High Jump Kick. Wish I would have had dual Fighting Stab right now, I'll tell you that right now. But you'll see what happens later. Delphox, which is my Z Fairy. That was mainly for the Zygarde, just to be able to spank it and punish it for trying to stay in on me. Because a bulkier spread probably can't set up on my Delphox, even if it was like Z Psychic or Z Psyshock. So my builder, Wolfmaster Arf, by the way, shout out to Wolf. He built a team for me. That was a good way to just have a check to that. It's got 4 attacks, nothing set up, just Fire Blast, Dazzling Gleam, Grass Knot, and Psychic. We have the Piloswine, which is a physically defensive build with some offensive investment. My Rocks dual stab, and then of course Ice Shard. We have Zap Plate Thunderous, because Nasty Plot Thunderous actually does tear him a new one if we get rid of that Crobat. Not that Crobat can really do much to me unless I'm really hurt already, or he's like Banded, Cross Poison, or something like that. We have Flame Orb Milotic, which is my main check to the set up Lucario, as well as a defensive or an offensive Crobat, I should say. Oh, my Marvel scale, I can pretty much take care of the Lucario for the most part. And then, of course, I have an Unaware Clefable as well to have an answer to his setup, like a Calm Mind Diancie or whatever the case could be, or Z Manaphy. So that's why we have the Unaware Clefable this week with Moonblast, Flamethrower, Wish, and Protect. Of course, Flamethrower is mainly there for the not Lucario, but the Roserade, but we probably could have been carrying a Psychic or Psyshock for the Crobat and the Roserade in case they were trying to be a bulkier variant to, carry Defog or T-Spikes or whatever it could be, on Crobat or Roserade respectively. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the actual game. As you can tell by the lead here, I ended up going with the Mienshao because, of course, I am Scarf. I'm faster than the entire roster unless you Scarf Crobat. And then, of course, I can just click U-turn for free. And even if we were to lead Licky, he's got to always be wary or worry of potential U-turn and still have Life Orb. So even if he protects turn 1 on U-turn, he's definitely not going to stay in and risk it. He's going to go into Rodriguez for sure. So that's something that I definitely kept in mind. But yeah, guys, go ahead and jump into the game. It's a pretty good one, by the way. So keep that. It's a really good game. Just telling you all right now. Although I don't remember exactly what happened in the game. Drink my old water, by the way. Ugh, that was nasty. Alright, so Licky is the lead, like I said. Shiny Licky. I got Mienshao without a nickname. This is Gen, a little too late. But, as I said, go ahead and click U-turn because even if he thinks I'm Scarf, or even if he doesn't know my set, so U-turn's pretty safe on his Protect, obviously. And there's no way he's going to stand. He's not going to risk me being non-choice. That could be a bait, He's definitely not going to play around with that turn 2, So he goes hard into his Rodriguez while I'm able to go for my U-turn. And the only bad thing about this is I don't have a great answer to this, as well as he now knows that I am a Regenerator and not Reckless, which really doesn't matter. But I mean, it could be some information that he, would like to know early. So go hard Thunderous here, and I decided to just click Thunderbolt because, like I said, I don't have a very good answer to this Rodriguez besides my Delphox. So I do decide to go straight for the Thunderbolt as he goes hard back into his Licky. Because Licky looks to be his Spinef Sponge to check this Thunderous, as the Zap Plate Thunderbolt does around. Let's go and get that HP count bar here so you guys can see. The Thunderbolt did around 30%, I believe. So he's sitting around 85%. So he goes for the Protect on my Nasty Plot, and this wasn't because I expected him to go for Protect. I just thought he'd go for Wish, and if he went for Wish, then the next turn could be a 50-50 on Thunderbolt or Nasty Plot, depending on what he wanted to do. I definitely did not expect him to go for Protect straight up. And so now he's sitting at around 75%, and my +2 Thunderbolt with Zap Plate actually does not KO this Licky, telling me he's definitely near max SPDF, if not max SPDF. I actually didn't check that calc before I went for it. I just figured it was fine because he doesn't have a ground type. He didn't bring a ground type to this matchup, so Thunderbolt was always as free as he can be. So, of course, I go ahead and finish him off with the T-Bolt, and it's looking pretty solid here. I only took a Body Slam, and, of course, that does indeed knock him out. So the only mod he can go into to potentially revenge me is the Crobat, and I calced and I made sure that the only way he can kill me is if he's Adamant Banned with Cross Poison. Adamant Brave Bird Banned actually had a small chance to kill, so I just ended up staying in here, and it knocked me down to very low, but it did not kill me, and I am able to pick off his Crobat. So we're at an amazing start. Thunderous just tore apart 2 mons, and it's looking pretty good so far. We got 2 mons down. We've only taken hit from Thunderous. Everything else is good to go. But trust me, it gets pretty good around the middle here. So he goes for Lucario. Goes into Lucario, obviously, and picks me off with the Extreme Speed. Obviously, if he didn't have Extreme Speed, he probably was losing the game straight up there. Although Bullet Punch probably would have knocked me out from there with Life Orb. So I'm just going to Delphox here. It's my only way to actually revenge this safely. So I go on the Delphox and just click Psychic. I thought about Grass Knot, but Grass Knot actually bounces off of Diancie because Diancie's so light. So Grass Knot was never going to be able to play there. So I go for Psychic. Psychic does a pretty reasonable chunk to Diancie, even if it's base form. So it definitely is telling me he's offensive, sitting at around 60% now. So I go ahead and hard switch into my Piloswine because it was the only mon I felt was worth sacking, and for some reason I thought I was actually sacking this because I thought Diamond Storm would do a lot more, but I forgot that I'm ground and ice, so it's gonna be neutral, not super effective. And of course, my Vizually, I'm impish. It was going to bounce off always. So Diamond Storm, of course, goes off here. And as you can tell from this damage, man, that does nothing. No damage. But he does get a +2 defense boost, which is kind of annoying because it might be a little bit enticing for him to stay in and go Moonblast, but he definitely values his Diancie a bit. And I almost clicked Stealth Rock here. I almost did, but I just figured Earthquake was the better play to get chip. Or, get it in range of Ice Shard maybe later on in the game. But as you can tell, Earthquake does nothing to this Cofagrigus, and I know this thing's going to give me trouble, so I went ahead and just going for Stealth Rock here on a potential Will-O-Wisp, but he actually decided to go for the Toxic Spikes, which is rather annoying because, Clefable's unaware, and everything else is grounded, at least everything alive. Everything is grounded. Milotic doesn't care because Milotic's at the Marble scale, but if he gets up 2 layers, I'll be Toxic and not burned, which is annoying, so that's something I did want. He goes for a second layer of Spikes there, and he's got 2 layers of Spikes. He's got so he can wear now my Fat now, which is a bit annoying. So on a second T-Spike after that, I decided to go hard into my Clefable because I wanted to just spam Moonblast against this thing. I didn't really have a great switch into this. I expected Hex to come out, so I figured sacking Clefable at that point was fine. But he does go for Pain Split and gets a pretty decent amount of HP back. I probably could have stayed in with my Piloswine, but I felt Piloswine was kind of important, and I just wanted I figured he Will-O-Wisp or Hex. That's what he was going to Hex because I wasn't status. But anyway, he switches out, fearing the Calm Mindset. Goes right into Rose Raid. Even though if I was Calm Mind, I think I had a pretty good chance to beat him right there because he's Lucario, but he's actually a Spadef Rose Raid from what I can tell there. Special attack drop there, and yeah, Rose Raid's in. I can't touch this. I decided to go for Flamethrower on his following turn. Just sacking off Clefable at this point because I'm trying to get Delphox in because he doesn't have a switch into Delphox at this point in the game. And so I just go for Flamethrower here, hoping he knocked me out, but he actually goes for the Spike. And now this man is hazard stacking me. So this is definitely very troublesome because the rest of my team is grounded. And there's obviously nothing that resists Spike. I don't have a poison type. So it's definitely looking like he's coming back for sure because he's definitely made this even with all the status, and he's pretty much kept his offensive mons alive for the most part. So take some more poison damage. I am toxic, and I just decide to go hard into my Delphox, expecting him to go for another Spike because I do not want my Delphox to take a crap ton. I don't want him to get 3 layers of Spikes up. That's my thing. I don't want him to get 3 layers of Spike. So I go hard Delphox here, as he actually opts to go for the Synthesis, which is pretty huge on his end. He goes to actually go back up to full with the Synthesis, right at 50, right at 100, I should say, and now Delphox doesn't even have a chance to kill this if he's max Spadef, so I decided to just go for Psychic. Like I said, he doesn't have a switch in. Getting rid of this is important to prevent Spikes, and of course it does a pretty reasonable chunk, doing about 80% to him with that Psychic, and Sludge Bomb, of course, doesn't do too much to me because he's not very offensive. Honestly, I probably would have went for Spike if I were him, but I think he understood that Delphox was a pretty big threat to his team at this point in the game. So getting me in range of E-Speed was definitely the right call there. But in the game, I figured he'd probably go for another Spike. So Rose Raid does go down, and even though we've knocked out 3 mons, and he's only knocked out, I think, 1, it's definitely close now because this Lucario actually can beat my rest of my squad except my Milotic at full or my Scarf Mienshao. So it's looking pretty annoying. So I do make a pretty it took a long time with this turn here because I wanted to value Delphox later on because Delphox was important to beating that Cofag and Cofagrigus. So goes through the extreme speed. Obviously, I was always going to be his play. My Marble Scale boost prevents me from dying to that, taking reasonable damage. So here, definitely not going to stay in. He's definitely going to switch out because if he sees and doesn't let me, and he takes a Scald, he's going to die to Life Orb, or the Scald, I should say. So he goes hard into his Cofagrigus, sitting around, 72% around that, and I do knock him below half there with that Scald, which is pretty nice because all I'm going to do here is just stay in and Scald because I need to break this thing out of the way. That way Mienshao can click fighting moves throughout the game to end the game. So I'm going for Scald here as he does go for the Hex there, and the Hex actually gets a crit on me, which is unfortunate because without that crit, I could have actually lived the poison and go for a free Scald there and not have to play around with this Cofagrigus being alive. So that's annoying there for sure. But the Delphox does come back in. I get 1 more turn left with my Delphox, and I do opt to go for the Psychic as he actually ends up going into his Diancie, hard Diancie. And with my rocks up, the Diancie is definitely going to get bopped by my Psychic because the first Psychic did to a very base form Diancie. So Obviously, this thing's going to drop here. So now, this is the hardest part of the game. This end game was played, I think, really smart on my end. I'm actually proud of the way I played this end game, but I probably overthought it a bit. So Lucario's in, and I'll go over the end game at the end of the battle because it's hard to explain right now. So all I have is Clef, Pile of Swine, a Delphox at little health, and a Scarf Mienshao. Meanwhile, he has Kofagrigus and the Lucario. Lucario can beat 2 of my last 3 mons by itself. So I have to go Mienshao and make a 50-50 here. I could either click U-turn expecting Kofagrigus to come in on the sack, or I click high jump kick expecting him to just go for like a steel move to knock me out, or fighting move. So I ended up going for the high jump kick because and this is probably a bad play, but I figured it was the safest play in case he flexed really hard. So, but obviously, if I knew the percentage that his Kofagrigus was at, I would have just went for U-turn no matter what. But I realized that he wasn't even going to die to rock, so that really sucked there. So I switch out, get my regen boost, and I opt to go hard into my Clefable because he can't kill Clefable unless he goes for Hex on the switch, which is definitely what he's going to do here, knowing that Kofagrigus is definitely not in range to do anything else. So goes for Hex. And I actually barely live with the Hex, fortunately. And that gives me 1 turn to kill this thing back with a Moonblast, which is ultimately the best thing for me. Now I can bring in my Mienshao after this and get my extra regen boost. That way I can come back in on the Lucario. So Clefable gives me that clutch turn to live there. But of course, unfortunately, I will go down to the next turn of poison. And now it is down to Lucario versus Mienshao with the Scarf and the Pile of Swine. Pile of Swine's obviously going to die to the next hit. So I go into Mienshao here to get my regen boost. I see that Stealth Rock will bring him down to around, 55% or 60%. And I go ahead and go hard into my Pile of Swine because he's definitely on like E-Speed there. If he went for CC, he was a crazy man. But he definitely probably could have done it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he would have made that play. But, you know, if he went for CC, I would have won anyway. So goes into E-Speed. And E-Speed does nothing to me. That extra turn of Life Orb is very huge there. And now is an interesting play here. He decides to go for the close combats. As I go for Ice Shard, obviously. To get a little bit more chip down. Because I need to get in range of knockoff. Because I'm not going to risk high jump kick anymore at this point. So close combat goes off there. And with that defense drop, the Life Orb drop, knockoff will pretty much guarantee killed the Lucario, and thanks to my regen switching around, I am able to pick him off with the knockoff here and win the game. So that's where my dual fighting stab would have been useful, because I could have just went for Drain Punch for free on the Lucario when Kofag was in. But the whole thing about playing around the E-Speed range, because look how much E-Speed does here, man. If I had like stayed in, because like, the thing is to me, when I stayed in with high jump kick on the Lucario, high jump kick recoil did less than an E-Speed if he had stayed in one for E-Speed. Although he definitely should have never stayed in, so I probably should have always expected him to stay in and just go for the U-turn. But I mean, if he flexed like 1 turn like that, it could have been very bad. It could have been very, very bad. I probably overthought it a bit at the end, I think, looking back at it now. But I wanted to stay out of range of E-Speed, and switching around was always the right play. If you would have went for the steal move on Pile of Swine instead of close combat, it would have just came down to me hitting a high jump kick. That's all it really would have came down to. So it was a great play, well-played game on his end. It looked like everything was all lost with the Thundurus, but I didn't realize Lucario can just tear apart my squad without my Thundurus on the field, so he definitely exposed that. And also, it's important to note that his computer actually crashed around very early in the game, right before Crobat came in, so he told me he couldn't, he wasn't going to be able to do calcs throughout the game, so he kind of got a little mind boggled there, which is unfortunate. But maybe if he had clicked cross poison on that Thundurus, it would have been maybe a different game for sure. So that's unfortunate. But we did play the end game pretty well. Again, I probably overthought it, but again, man, you know me, I overthink everything. But it was a well-played game at the end there. And the Rangers have bounced back with a very small victory, 1-0 victory, and we are now at 2-1 with a +1 differential. So, great start so far. Obviously, last week was stupid for me. But obviously, we're here to take back the Western title and hopefully win our first championship. That's the goal this season. So, next week we are playing. The, I can't even say this name. I actually have to look at their team to be able to say it. The Almalo Alamamala, coached by Pinkman. I call him Pinkman. But coached by Ominous Acid. This guy drafted Mono Pink. And man, I'll tell you, it's actually a pretty viable team too. Like, it's Mono Pink, but it's actually legitimately a threat. Like, it's not a joke, man. This guy knows how to play the game. He's not having the best start right now. but he definitely knows what he's doing, and I gotta be able to keep up my A game there in that game. So yeah, we got him next week in week number 4 of the GBAD League, and I'm not GBAD League, the PGBL. I'm sorry, GBAD League goes up tomorrow against Dan Says. I hope you guys enjoy that. So, anyways, guys, that's all it's all from me today. I'll catch y'all next week for more draft league action, and I hope to see y'all then. Go Rangers!